This episode of the JRE Review is brought to you by Inca-Booch. Inca-Booch is a new kind of kombucha combining all the probiotic benefits of kombucha with the antioxidant benefits of purple corn-infused tea. Purple corn has one of the highest levels of antioxidants in the plant kingdom, and combined with kombucha results in a powerhouse of nutrition. Visit incabooch.com and check out their great selection of drinks today. For this review, I will be reviewing the podcast with Adam Greentree, which is podcast 1224. I'm a big fan of Adam Greentree ever since Joe has had him on as a guest multiple times. I mean, I don't know how many times Adam's been on. Must be, who knows, 6, 7 times. He's great, though. He has amazing stories, bear attack stories, crazy, wild adventures. He's a hunter, outdoorsman, Australian guy, all around great dude, and they had a fantastic conversation, so let's review. So Adam is doing a very interesting thing right now. He's left Australia for a bit of time, and with his family and kids, he's taking a 6-month trip around the US. Adam is sponsored by a lot of different like outdoor sporting type companies, some hunting companies, and all the rest of it. So I'm sure he has the capability to do it. And then also, because he's really a world-class hunter and well-known in those circles, I'm sure people are, I'm just a guess, but I'm sure people are paying for his service for him to kind of teach them and travel around and hunt the US. But it sounds like an incredible adventure, and what an unbelievable time. And it's so funny in some ways to think that he's from Australia but knows more about the American wilderness and America as a whole than a lot of Americans. So get out there, folks. Travel. Go to the national parks. See these things. Even if you don't need to be a hunter to go into nature and just see the beautiful things out there. They start the podcast in a great way. These two always have fantastic conversations. They get into it about talking about wolves and how super smart wolves are. Adam's had some major run-ins with wolves, so his understanding of how they behave and act is different than most people. He really knows these creatures, and he has a lot of respect for them. He told a story about how a pack of wolves ran some sort of animal, like an elk or something, into a river, a freezing cold river. And after it did that, they just kind of held the animal there, not letting it escape, and they just kind of sat up on the hill in the sun drying off, knowing full well that this animal would just slowly get cold, hypothermia, run out of energy, and they would be able to take it. And exactly what happened. Adam came back to that spot and found that that animal was just, bones. And, they're smart creatures. They look at you in a way that suggests that they're trying to figure you out. They're trying to figure out if you're a meal or not. And as you know from this Joe Rogan's podcast, Joe's a huge fan of wolves and has a ton of respect for them. Another thing that wolves will do is if they get a hold of a big group, like a big group of elk moving in one direction. There was a story they told where these elk were walking through the snow. It was snowy, and they were slowed down because of the snow, and these wolves just killed them all. Left and barely ate any of them. And, it's good practice for the wolves, obviously. And if they're fully fed, then it's just what they do. I mean, they're not thinking about ecology numbers as a whole, but they're just, they're a violent animal trying to stay alive. And this is what they get up to. So, it really, though, nothing goes to waste. And it's something that Adam was talking about. Even if they don't eat it, it goes to the ground. Something's eating it. Birds will come peck it, like you name it. That's kind of it. Adam really appreciates being out in nature. If you follow his Instagram, like, it's everything about it is hunting or just beautiful pictures of the outdoors. He likes taking photography, but he also does upload a lot of what he does to the outside world while he's there, or maybe he'll save some of it on his phone. And I don't think he always wants to do that. He kind of implies that he just wants to be there with nature, but he's also trying to bring something back for people that don't get to go there. He wants to give you a taste of what's out there. And, it's tough because he says phones, they've improved a lot, but it's much harder to get that, get good reception and be able to upload things and so on. One of the incredible videos that Adam had, if you haven't seen it already, go to his Instagram page and check it out. It's when a bear mother, female bear, was with its cubs and started to charge him and was like charging at him. Now he had a gun and he had it ready, but the bullet actually didn't fit in the chamber. So he wasn't even ready to fire it. He didn't even know. But luckily the bear didn't get close enough and was just kind of, getting a kind of a feel for where he was. But that was just one of the crazy adventures that he's been in, and he's been in so many. It's unbelievable. He does have a podcast where he talks about a lot of what goes on out there, and he doesn't get to record it too much, but definitely check out his podcast if you're a hunting fan or you want to learn more about hunting. Just like Steve Ranello, and even Cameron Haynes, this is one of the guys that really represents that whole sport, and hobby well. So you'll get to learn a lot about it. He was saying that he wanted to kind of detach, though, from social media in some ways. It takes up a lot of time for these guys that are getting quite famous, and it gets addictive, and then people talk shit, and that becomes a whole issue. And Joe was kind of into it as well. He gave the example that Bert Kreischer and Ari Shafir are already paying a company to deal with their social media. So I guess they just send things to them that they want to upload, and this company does it for them, so you don't have to keep checking and obsessing about social media all the time, which is kind of a good option. It really is. It's just, it saves a lot of time for sure, and these guys need time. They're busy. One thing Adam brought up, which was really cool, is that I guess there's like two types of fun that you can have, and I never really thought about it this way. But just generally in life, there's instant fun, like being on a roller coaster. And that's something that you're like, wee, this is great. But then there's the fun of thinking back to an adventure, right? So look at some of the things that Adam Greentree go when he survives like a very scary or stressful or challenging time out in the wild. When he gets done, he looks back on it and gets great joy out of it. So whereas you wouldn't look back to your time on the theme park and think, wow, that was such an amazing time 10 years ago, you probably just forget it. The joy has been had. But when you've survived, a great adventure, it really kind of comes back to you that was something really worthwhile, and was something that was just a part of your life that you would never change, even though it was very difficult during that time. And it speaks volumes to the challenges and the kind of gratitude and fulfillment we get from such things, which I really do think is very important indeed. He moves on to talk a little bit about the mountain lion situation, which I find fascinating because he has been paid to hunt mountain lions in recent months, and he has done it with dogs. And part of the reason he does that, one, because you just can't chase them or track them without it. They're too elusive. And this mountain lion had been killing a lot of this rancher's cattle, so it had to go because it was causing a lot of problems. And, at least this is how the rancher saw it. I'm not saying I agree either way. But, it was a problem for the rancher, and he had the right to do it, so he brought in a professional, and they chase with the dogs the mountain lion up the tree, and that gives them time to check and make sure it's the right one, like the right age, the right sex. It's really the only way to do it, according to Adam. And then they kind of talk a little bit about how the meat is delicious. The meat for these things is just incredible. Joe hasn't tried mountain lion meat. I never have. But Adam talks about it being good. Other hunters do. I guess kind of like a very tender chicken. I wouldn't be opposed to it as long as it was killed ethically and all the rest of it. I mean, it's kind of odd, right? Big cat, but that's kind of it. So and one thing they were saying is mountain lion hunting has been banned in California, yet they still have to kill as many. But they do it with, I guess, like the park rangers or something. They come in and they take care of it. I don't know exactly how they do it, but they kill as many as the hunters did. But I guess in some way, because it's, not regular people just going out hunting, it's better for society. I don't really get it, because that meat goes to waste and no money is made by the state. I think that with proper regulation, it could be hunting like anything else and done appropriately. I don't know their methods. I'm sure that I don't think that they're using dogs. I'd have to look into it, but to say that one's more ethical than the other, as long as it's still ethically sound in the way that they're getting killed, why not make some money out of it, in the sense of something that can go back to the park systems and the hiking trails, and just keeping that habitat in really good shape for the existing mountain lions, while also kind of controlling their numbers. I mean, that's what I think that would be good. Adam talks a little bit about trying to get Joe over to Australia to hunt. This is ongoing dialogue that he's had for a long time. Joe is against it because he thinks all the animals are too dangerous. But since his time in America, Adam's saying there's a fuck ton of dangerous animals in America too. So you got to watch out. Rattlesnakes, bears, they're everywhere. Which I kind of found quite funny. And then they finished up with something really interesting that is a great part of the podcast and definitely worth listening to for anybody that has not gone hunting but is kind of into it, kind of into the idea of it. They talk about how when people go, and Joe gave the example of Brian Callen being this way, when they first got an animal and they started to gut it and open it up, it was something that Brian said he'd almost felt like he'd done it before, like it was in our DNA. And really, I mean, you go back long enough, we were all having to be hunters like this. There weren't vegetarians way back in the day. We just, we had to go from animal to animal, and hunting was a big part of who we are, and it's like built into us. And Joe gave the example of how his daughter loves to fish, and one time was fishing and had a tough fish on the line, could barely pull it in, and Joe said, "Hey, do you want me to help?" And she insisted no. Like, she wanted that. She wanted all the fulfillment. She wanted to learn the skill and being able to do it. It was just very important for her from start to finish to do that whole process. And I really think that was, that's like a cool thing to hear about. And I would love to hear back from anybody who goes hunting for the first time or has been hunting and has felt that same kind of thing. Does this resonate with you? Does that make sense? But again, it's a great podcast. If you're an outdoorsman or you're into hunting or just a fan of Adam's, you got to check it out. Thanks a lot for listening. I appreciate you guys. Talk soon. Thanks for listening, and again, this review is brought to you by Inca Booch. Go to incabooch.com to get your drinks today.